Okay, good morning. I will now call the September 25th, 2024 San Diego County Board of Supervisors Land Use Session and Flood Control District meeting to order. I'm chairing today's meeting because Supervisor Nora Vargas is absent. Just a reminder from yesterday and repeating it again today, this meeting is going to be run differently in accordance with the board's rules of procedures. Let me share the changes with you up front. After the non-agenda public comment and the consent calendar, any discussion item with 10 or more speakers, individuals will have 1 minute to share their opinion. Again, for any discussion item with 10 more speakers, individuals will have 1 minute to share their opinion. If you disrupt the meeting, you will be given one warning, and after that one warning, if you disrupt the meeting again, you will be directed to leave the chamber for the remainder of the meeting. If you choose not to leave, we will stop the meeting and the sheriff's deputies will remove you. And once you're removed, we will resume the meeting. If you are not speaking in support or opposition of a recommendation for an item, you are off topic. You will be given one warning, and then you will forfeit the remainder of your time. To clarify, expressing your support or opposition on the discussion item is what is considered being on topic when you speak to the board. If you choose not to leave the podium after your time is forfeited, we will stop the meeting and the sheriff deputies will remove you. Again, these changes are in accordance with the existing county board rules. If I have to step out of the meeting, Supervisor Joel Anderson, who is our chair pro tem, will take over the duties of leading the meeting until I get back. I will now turn it over to Ryan to call the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Supervisor Anderson. Here. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond. Here. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here. I now turn it to County Council for the report of actions taken in yesterday's closed session.
Yes, good morning. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session on September 24th, 2024 from 3:33 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. 4 board members were present. Chair Vargas was absent. The board took no reportable actions. End of report.
Non-agenda public, okay. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communication.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. Non-agenda public communication is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. According to the board's rules of procedure, public speakers that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments. The rules also state that audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. We have 22 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 5 individuals in person, and 17 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. In accordance with the board's rules and procedures, we will hear from the first 5 speakers in person. All the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand at the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board. And if you could please begin by stating your name for the record. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 speakers, Michael Brando, Robert Gurman, and Parita Javier.
Good. Michael, human beings need to trust. Trust allays anxiety, helps lift depression, and makes it possible to consistently invest interest and enjoyment in one another. There can be no civilization, enduring health, or mental wellness without trust. Distrust is fraught with anxiety and resentment. No loneliness is lonelier than distrust. From a great book by Stephen Stosny. I mention this because Tara Lawson-Remer continues to threaten people in the county of San Diego. When she talks about having to speak either for or against an item, or you will be considered off topic, she is violating the Brown Act, California Constitution, and Bill of Rights. Because when someone comes up here to talk about a discussion item, they're allowed to talk about fallacious assumptions about which that agenda item is based. They're allowed to talk about fallacious logical bridges, connecting things together that invalidate the agenda item itself. Also, they're allowed to talk about omissions. I don't know if you've paid attention to what's going on at the City of San Diego Corporation with Sean Elo Rivera, but Lori Saldana has done a great job of calling out the same pattern of reckless, tyrannical behavior that is going to see Tara Lawson-Remer self-implode very quickly.
Good morning.
You can begin your comments. We're starting your time, sir.
Good morning. I am Prita Javier, victim of toxicity. This is part of our Better to Honor ceramics kiln. From our learning and teaching, we earn the benefit of knowledge. First is fear, psychological weight, and burden to our day-to-day life. Whenever we notice the kiln is on, nightmare lurks in our sleepless hours. Poison gases are emitted. We dread it when our immunity fails as the result of inhalation and ingestion of unseen toxic particles airborne. Our neighborhood have been observant to the smoke and odor it generated in the past, and recently the ghostly emission pollution many days before October 21st, 2021 showed up off-earn. Shave finished products. Truly, I miss to report this as advised by County Air Pollution Control District. Getting seriously ill is a matter of time. Almighty help us. Second, we experienced in the past recurring headache, coughing, sneezing, unusual heart palpitations, sleeplessness, on other.
Thank you. Your time is up. I'll call the final two remaining speakers, Cesar Javier and Catherine Rhodes.
Cesar Javier. We have some documents for Ma'am Remer as an Air Commission Board member and governing board member of the Air Pollution Control District. A copy also to Madam Steep because she supports Councilor Rivera, believing that our supposed to be homeowners association is the leading person in ensuring that our community is clean and safe. We found out in our research, finding solution, when the land use and loose, if I may say it, endorse us, including the City Code Enforcement Division, to the Air Pollution Control District. And we are eyeing from this agency of the government to do something. In short, stop this toxicity in a residential zone designated community. The weakest link is Rule 11, Paragraph 8, which we have provided you, Ma'am. And it says there that ceramic kiln is exempt from permit. When we say permit, this is the regulatory standard. You cannot just locate a hazardous industrial activity in a populated area. That's the essence of that. But because of that minimum requirement of business tax permit, he is free to locate, construct, and even sell without permit. I'm so sorry, but
Thank you. We'll hear from our next speaker. Thank you.
Robert Gurman. How about those Padres? Remember when we had an NFL championship team in San Diego? They were called the San Diego Somebodies, but Mayor Faulkner screwed that up. The first two slides are a reminder of what Gillespie Airport is recognized for in the aviation industry. Nothing else like it in the U.S. An experiment of $1 million hangar homes and home to the MAGA followers in San Diego County. The booklet shows 24 luxury lofts, luxury lofts, AKA McHanger homes. This one is 3 bedrooms, 4 bath, Italian flooring throughout, even in the hangar, gourmet kitchen, 2 patios, hot tub, and a separate maid's quarters with a full kitchen and a Murphy bed for the hired help. Don't want to spoil them. Gillespie now has 150 acres designated for future development. More one-of-a-kind $1 million hangar homes with 50-year leases. The Gillespie Field Development Council figures they are owed the 50-year lease because former Supervisor Diane Jacobs promised the airport that. I disagree. I can think of so many better uses for a prime piece of property in the middle of one of the poorest districts in San Diego County. That is District 2, my district, and Supervisors Anderson's district. Thank you. And go Padres, beat LA.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and this is for Tara Lawson-Remer. I went to your office September 10th. Somebody was supposed to call me back. Of course, he never called me back. Nobody ever calls me back. I would like my issue to be sent over to the Chief Executive Officer so I could finally do something. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you so much for what you've been doing regarding the public lease. What you're doing recently is you've been keeping the property as county property and then letting people lease it for long term. And that way it stays public housing. Before, you would give money, you could give property to the city and the city would literally give it away. It's supposed to be for housing, it never went to housing. So anyway, this is for Jim Desmond also. There's I really want to put the 10,000 affordable housing units that were destroyed onto the successor agency recognized obligation payment schedule. Super easy. I did it before. In fact, there's about 100 extra things that we put on the ROPS after they said nothing more can go on the ROPS. And I said, no, there always is a way. In fact, what I did is I followed the North Embarcadero Visionary Plan. People said, hey, that's not fair, we need that money. We got that money. Also got money for 5 affordable housing projects costing like $65 million. They said we couldn't do it, and I said, no, that's not true. So anyway, if you could move my issue on putting the 10,000 affordable housing units onto the recognized obligation payment schedule, and then also for on Montgomery Step. The 7% interest on the original $240 million in HUD OIG audit debt to community development block grant program income can also be put on the ROPS. That's probably an extra $200 million going to the poor, going to your neighborhoods. And I would like to actually show you the solution. I've got it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, in accordance with the board's rules, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted, and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hi, Paul the Bold. After all of these years of crappy air in the Chidley River Valley, I'm amazed that it took one person to show how to clear the toxic gas, and that it took 5 days, not months or years. That's how government works. And Michael, doing this quickly would be a huge step to restore trust. Interesting, slow to flow. Sounds like what the storage reservoirs did for years, but we prefer new technology, sort of like the Titanic. And by the way, the increasing concentration of hydrogen sulfide residues in the body over the years does increase the risk of severe symptoms. It's the same reason it takes 3 years to build 3 miles of road from the 905 freeway to east at High Mesa 2. The permitting process, the funding process, offices busy or closed, and on and on. That's a basic problem with the government. Too many hands in the pot. And their solution is 9 times out of 10, a referral, create another bureaucracy, make another speech. Now there are 4 universities studying the air pollution. Researcher even got sick too. Real life experience. When you say the air is safe, I'd like Nora to admit publicly that she was totally wrong to say this. You may have even started a travel to test tourist flow. But congratulations on opening the IB Beach after 3 years. Speak of 3 years. And the Strand. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Consuelo. Dear San Diego, dear America, your government is corrupt, your banks are holding you as collateral, your military is used to terrorize the world, while your media keeps you distracted with mindless celebrity bullshit. Your wars are about resources and financial control. You have more in common with the people you're bombing than the billionaires that are ruling over you. The rest of us see this. Why can't you? In this state, it's the state against the people. Got it? Government has weaponized the law against us all. Red, blue, green, and everything in between. They've got you believing it's red versus blue, when in actuality, it's the state versus you. This is a quote from Osho. No society wants to become wise. It is against the investment of all societies. If people are wise, they cannot be exploited. If they are intelligent, they cannot be subjugated. They cannot be forced in a mechanical life to live like robots. They will have the fragrance of rebellion around them. In fact, a wise man is a fire, alive, a flame. He would rather to die than to be enslaved. Governments will eventually fail, but extraordinary people will always prevail. Wake up, San Diego. Wake up, humanity. It's time.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Fujimori. I'm calling because I'm extremely concerned about the conditions of the horses at the Artesian Road property. I'm asking that the horses be removed immediately before any more animal abuse or suffering occurs. The conditions that these animals are forced to endure at this property have been documented as unsanitary and inhumane. Board of Supervisors and Steve Lujan, you have been informed time and time again about this issue, yet there is still no action being taken to take these suffering animals out of these horrible living conditions and placed in the care of an animal sanctuary. Sarah Lawson-Remer, this is happening in your district, so please do your job and protect these poor animals. There have been at least 2 deaths documented at that property in the past year, and that is unacceptable. So we are demanding that immediate action be taken before any more fatalities occur, which will happen if nothing is done by our government officials. In closing, you know what the problem is, so please do your jobs and fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Annie Abram.
You may begin your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having these meetings, and I hope that it would come to fruition. I have been calling again and again in regards to the horses in the Artesian Road. This has been a nightmare that is just not being dealt with. The conditions of these horses is nothing more than disgusting and disturbing. If we have had any kind of opportunity to see the same scene in a regular place outside this property that is owned by the abuser, the conditions of these horses and the dog, we would have the fire department and everybody else run for help, and they would deem to be heroes to rescue. In this case, because this person has favors, even the animal control people are not doing anything about it, while these artesian horses are suffering every single day to death, literally to death. And there are dogs suffering along the side of these horses. These conditions are unacceptable. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The suffering of these horses is a threat to the health of every life. When these people have power and they can abuse it, they are abusing every life, not only the horses. I appreciate the caller before me, Michael, and before him as well. You know, these are words of wisdom that we cannot ignore the suffering of the vulnerable, of those who trust us. These animals are trusting us, just like our dogs. And for us to do them wrong in every...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, my name is Camila. I'm asking you today to please remove the horses and dogs from Artesian Road and move them to a sanctuary. I'm very concerned about these innocent and defenseless beings who are suffering and dying without help. I'm really tired about animals basically having no rights, and the humans in power are allowing the status quo. The horses and dogs at Artesian Road are not able to leave and meet their own needs. They're imprisoned, and denying them basic needs and protection is torture. Would you look into their eyes and personally condemn them to their pain? I believe most of us are good people and have empathy for others, including animals. It's just about remembering what's important and maybe being willing to do something a little selfless. Seeing these loving, intelligent individuals find health and joy at a sanctuary would help us all restore some trust in government and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you so much. If possible, I'd love to get an update on this situation with the horses that were mentioned by individuals in our non-agenda public comment.
Certainly, Vice Chairwoman. On behalf of the Public Safety Group and the Department of Animal Services, I do want to thank the folks who've been coming and speaking on behalf of the animals who cannot speak for themselves, so thank you for that. In response, the Department of Animal Services has been out to the property 10 times in the past 3 months, has also been on the property and observed the condition of the animals, which was very good. We've also met with the folks who are concerned and expressed these concerns in August, and at this time we have no further evidence or information that there are any issues, but we will continue to be available, and I'll contact Andrew Strong and Director Vaughn Morris to see if there's anything further that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could just look into this, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the statement of proceedings minutes for the Board of Supervisors land use session of September 11, 2024, and flood control district meeting of September 11, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there? Thank you. I have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, second by Supervisor Anderson. Please vote.
And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay. We will now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar, items 1, 2, and flood control district, item 01. All agenda items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon together with one motion. Public speakers will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisors pull the items they would like for discussion. Supervisor Anderson, are there any items you'd like to pull or any comments? Supervisor Montgomery Stepp?
No items needed to pull. I will move the consent agenda.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond?
No items to pull. I'll second the motion.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Can I turn, Ryan, now to public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson. Remember, we have 7 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 1 individual in person, and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Again, as a reminder for public speakers, please keep your comments related to those items only on the consent calendar. For any individuals that have requested to speak on items on the consent calendar, please dial in by phone. Please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the 1 in-person speaker. I'd like to invite forward Catherine Rhodes, and you'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. What I want to say is thank goodness you're finally spending money. You're going to be spending $50 million for consultants, for engineering consultants. That's what I did for you. I was an engineering consultant and did a lot of work for the county previously. Wrote a lot of reports for you guys. So anyway, that's great. But I actually want you to do even more. This is only kind of for the road stuff. Remember, you have $769 million in your general fund reserve balance. This is, you know, when people say, oh, we're giving them $32 million. Why didn't they tell you that you had $797 million to start off and you're only spending $32 million? So anyway, I would like you to bump this up to $100 million because we need this not only for this, we also need this for the housing that needs to be done. The City of San Diego and Voice of San Diego, Lisa Haverstedt did another great report where she said there's going to be 600 and something shelter beds closed. Then it says that some of them are going to not be closed. And the only way they could not be closed is because the fire marshal approved it to be open for a little while longer. So for this right here, very supportive of it. I want you to bump it up to $100 million. So it's not only for the infrastructure projects that you have, but it's also for the housing that you're going to have to build to take care of all the poor people because it's now your problem because of SB 43. And so that's pretty much it. I'm glad you're finally spending money. Please spend it as fast as possible because you are as rich as can be. Thank you. Also, I wanted to say, you know, with the ROPS, I think we could get $5 billion put on the ROPS, $5 billion of debt to the successor agency, which you guys could say, we can get it. All we have to do is talk to HUD. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Consuelo. So, yeah, that's the thing. They have the money. They have everything they need. But just like everything else, it's just, you know, they're not there to solve the issues. They're just there to make sure that things are going according to the plan. And, yeah.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Paul LeBold, do we need these as-needed contracts of this size? The board's letter says growth and inflationary pressures are driving the need for more as-needed contracted professional service capacity. Not very specific. Inflation is going down. The letter has a list of projects for $41.5 million, but this year's budget for these projects is $180 million. No justification for the expenses growth over several years. Listed potential funding sources are also corrupt. non-starters, investors. And these are only potential. Why should we involve ourselves in a potentially $50 million worth of unfunded obligations? For instance, nothing's meant for transportation. It is administered by Sandag, an agency with a record of breaking contracts, wasting funds, and lying to the public. I would not fund this funding. Transportation impact funds may bring in $500,000 a year, not much of a $2.5 million contract. The federal grants are not likely to be as much as anticipated either, since both are basically broke. It would be very irresponsible to shoulder a financial burden of this size without further explanation on this is actually needed. Completion. FLO1, there was a good amount of progress seems to have been done since last meeting. After 8 months of work, is the project now complete? The status is of 9/12.
Thank you. Your time is up. And let me just double check. I think that might be all the speakers here. No. We'll go to our next speaker.
Truth, that's right. Item 1 says contracts under $1 million were signed without board approval, but now the Department of Public Works will need over $50 million in contracts for the next 5 years. Psychotic policies coming from the state and federal governments the last years and before have exacerbated the printing of fiat, funny money to spend on full emergencies like COVID that creates inflation. And when you shut down the country, the cost of building materials skyrockets. But we're to believe everything's good, like the abuse forces. Since dumb decisions were made, now DPW will have contracts without board approval that cost 2.5 times the former cost at $2.5 million a pop. Considering that things continue down the psychotic path, even if temporarily backpedaled during election season, Sarah, I expect those contracts to double soon. I would also request that since Nora and Tara claim to care about Imperial Beach's plight, that some of those contracts go toward volunteering time to repairing and building wastewater treatment plants. Put some resources where your money mouths are at. And item 2, first, I hope this property owner isn't the same Susan Turnbull that has a picture with Biden and is full on in the Harris cult. 22.6 acres of land with only one single-family home sounds wonderful. That's the type of housing that every low-income resident deserves to have access to. In 2021, the Palma Estates development was canceled due to no investors. That's where those dumb state and local county policies come into play. Make it expensive to build and throw in totalitarian modern-day redlining known as VMT, and suddenly nobody can afford to build or buy, and the lowest-income residents have to move out of the state or the county. If you supervisors were serious about housing, especially ownership of single-family homes, which creates generational wealth, rather than the box unit renting that creates generational poverty, which Monica is in full support of, the county could have helped find some developers to invest rather than let it waste away. All it would have taken is a simple phone call to Tara's big developer friends that donated thousands to her campaign, like Michael Gelfand from Terra Vista Management or Charles Caveo from Commercial Real Estate. Lots of donations from rich people you could have called. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
For the flooding and the $6.25 million that you're going to be spending in these repairs should have been spent prior to this. You shouldn't have neglected what was need to be taken care of with the infrastructure prior to the flooding. It should have been taken care of before. And so I'm sure we're going to be seeing more things like this have to happen since you guys are incapable of doing your job. And as far as the as-needed engineering, design, project management, and professional land surveying, this is, you're wanting to reduce the county's risk. And what you should actually be doing is be listening to somebody like Catherine Rhodes, who comes in all the time and knows exactly what's going on with the county, with the money. And you should be bringing somebody in like that that would be able to actually make a change for the better and make sure that the money is being spent wisely, that projects are getting completed, instead of, pretty much putting money in some other company or entity's pockets to potentially, help keep you guys out of, having any kind of risk. You need somebody like her that would be able to provide the information that most likely these companies and consultants wouldn't be able to provide. And it's important to, if you really did care about the county, that you would listen to somebody like her instead of, just basically ignoring it. Everything that you guys do just shows where you stand, because if you really wanted to improve things, then you would be moving in that direction. You wouldn't just, continue to do the things that you guys do, which doesn't help anybody out in the communities. You love to put money in other people's pockets. It's like just money shuffling around. And then we see that, you can't fix homelessness. You can't even provide housing. You can't even keep up with the infrastructure that needs to be upkept. And it's like, this is a business, right? It's not really about.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
I really, really, really don't understand you guys at all. Do you guys just like the power? Because clearly the people are coming over to you, begging you to do your job. You flat out ignore them to line your own pocketbooks. Right now, did you hear the newest study about global warming? They're saying it's a bunch of bullshit. These are the scientists that you fucking believe in that told you that we need to go ahead and get rid of fuel in a very short period of time. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that the Sahara is turning green right now. You can see it from satellites. And you guys want to go ahead and say that we're burning up, that we're going to go ahead and torch, that we're torching ourselves and all that stuff. No, there was a reason, and I can't remember what I recently heard. And of course, the media is going to go ahead and try to dismiss this because we want to dig major holes into the earth. We want to go ahead and do whatever we want, and we're going to go ahead and, as long as they line your pocketbooks, you don't care what the fuck they do. They could kill as many horses as they want, as long as you guys get rich in the process, right? We could go ahead and destroy, we could go ahead and use slave labor to go ahead and get the materials for the battery, even though we have the materials here and we could get it in a humane way. But fuck that. That would be more money out of my pocketbook, so hell no. But you know what the great thing is? At the end of the year, the election's going to happen. People are going to be looking up. There's going to be an ungodly amount of dead people voting, and you guys are going to have to explain why you will let that happen. On top of that, I've explained to you guys throughout the 3 years many problems with the vote-by-mail system, and you guys chose to ignore.
Thank you. Your time is up. And noting for the record, that speaker was Justin Castro. Vice Chair Lawson Remer, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. We had a motion by Supervisor Montgomery Steppe and a second from Supervisor Jim Desmond. Please vote.
And Vice Chair Lawson Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Thank you. We will now move to discussion items. We have item number 3, adopt an ordinance to amend portions of the San Diego County Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance, County Code 811.101, and related CEQA findings. We now turn to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson. Remember, before we go to public comment, just also like to note for the record that we did receive an errata for item 3 that made changes to the background information section in the board letter. With that noted, we'll go to public comment. We have 7 total requests to speak, 1 individual in person, and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 2 e-comments on this item. Both of those were in favor. For any individuals that have requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with our in-person speaker. Again, that's Catherine Rhodes. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Lovely. Hi, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I'm going to be sitting here after the meeting or during the meeting until somebody comes and talks to me. And if somebody doesn't talk to me, like Tara Lawson, remember when I went to your office and they were supposed to come call me back, I'm going to go up to your offices again and ask every single one of you, I have a solution. Why can't you help me? So anyway, for this one right here, this is another solution that I think that you should do. There's so many homeless people that need jobs, right? When we have emergencies in the city of San Diego, they're supposed to do the Community Emergency Response Team or CERT program so that people could help you during emergencies like floods. So you could get free public liability. So if somebody said, oh, we can't use volunteers, or we can't pay you, if you go through the CERT program, you could get people to have free liability, and you could help the poor, like say homeless people, come out there and actually do some work during emergencies. So what happens in the city of San Diego? The city of San Diego would say, okay, we're going to have like 2 CERT programs a year with the fire department. And then what they do is they cancel them. I sign up for them almost every year. They get canceled, and then I never get to get certification. Then I go to the county and say, the city of San Diego is messing with every single person in the city of San Diego. We can't get FEMA certification so that we can help. The poor that need jobs can't get certification so they can help. And so the solution of it, of course, is because the city of San Diego refuses to do this, and they sabotage everything, is for the county to actually allow people that live in the city of San Diego to go to the county CERT program. Why are we not allowed to go? Because we don't live in the unincorporated area. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
All about as representatives for the entire county, you should have drafted this ordinance to apply to the entire county, not just the incorporated parts. There are flood zones all over, as we saw on January 22nd. For people who build houses, this doesn't seem to mandate flood prevention as much as guarantee perforated houses, meaning the stormwater may be running through your house, or maybe you'll have to build a house on piers. Great for letting in rats and snakes, though. No health and safety there. And apparently the board wants to exempt developers from these requirements. This seems to diminish health and safety by potentially allowing vermin easier access and allowing the buildup of stormwater, which might eventually present a health or mosquito hazard. But apparently the designers of this ordinance would rather not look at the big picture. The one good thing is that the homeowners get a 20% discount on flood insurance. Other than that, you should reject this poorly planned proposal. And by the way, shame on you for having no discussion of the consent calendar items. I hope you do better this time.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
You know what the crazy thing about this whole flood thing is? I've lived here my entire life. I've never heard of that ever taking place. I also understand the fact that there was a report that was made in 2020 saying everything that we needed to do just in case we got a flood. And Monica should know this because she was a city council member at that time. Out of all the actions that they suggested that we needed to go ahead and do, the city council chose to do 0 of them. 0. They instead took the advice of the county, the Board of Supervisors, which instructs them where to spend their money, and told them to go ahead and spend their money on, let's say, bike lanes and all that stuff. We're not going ahead and repairing things. We're just going ahead and doing a bunch of stupid-ass projects, throwing our money into different things so that you could go ahead and create a problem. What? You flood out these people. What's happening into that area? Let me take a wild guess. Some contractor is going to go ahead and buy those houses so that they can build your 15-minute city. That was done on purpose. You guys purposely did not clean out the drains. You made that area flood, throwing all this concrete without even doing any proper planning. That is DEI for you. Let's go ahead and have unqualified people make our decisions for us, because equality, right? They don't know what the fuck they're doing, but we're all equal, so let's ignore the experts, and let's go ahead and go with dumbasses like you guys. Complete and utter fucking morons. I do not fucking understand. You guys don't think that there's punishments for your crimes. I just don't understand that. There is one for allowing election fraud to take place. Once it gets discovered, the 3 years of me telling you guys to look into that and you guys flat out ignoring it, giving me a restraining order to tell me.
Thank you. Your time is up. And again, noting for the record, that caller was Justin Castro. We'll go to our next speaker.
From Swallow. Amen, Justin. Amen. It is, in fact, so sad that this issue, I mean, there's still people till this day who are affected by the negligence of these selected individuals. And it's just, it's just a matter of time when the masses start to wake up. I just listen in on these meetings, and I really ain't got much I'm not prepared to speak and do the research, only because it's the same. It's the same thing. It's just so everything is by design. Everything is happening on purpose. I mean, you got to be a total schmuck not to get that. Like, you have to be entirely clueless. And well, a lot of the citizens are in fact not paying attention. They are clueless, and that's why these people are getting away with so much. But you have a few, and the weak will just fall. But yeah. The people who are paying attention, like I said earlier, we will prevail. And the ones who are, going along with it all, there will be consequences. And I just hope that you guys, choose the right path before it's too late, because there's still time. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are following other people that think that we actually have the sheriff deputies on our side to go to for help when shit hits the fan. That's not the case. I'm so sorry. You are all being misguided, and you should tune in. Well, they're not even listening, because they're listening to whomever is telling them what to do. But it's unfortunate. Anyways.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
It's truth. Sand and sandbags are not going to stop flooding due to government negligence of stormwater infrastructure. Continually lying about what happened by using the old, tired cliche of climate change isn't going to cut it anymore. Nobody's buying it. This item says to qualify for flood insurance, structures built within the boundaries of special flood hazard areas must meet standards that determine where they sit on FEMA's flood insurance rate map. Why is the so-called emergency agency involved in insurance scams rather than evacuation procedures? Is this like yesterday's consent item about profiting off risks? FEMA says elevating structures above the flood risk will lower their flood insurance premiums. So basically, make San Diego look like Florida and people can pay less. Let's do it. The 1988 Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance was allegedly to minimize public and private losses due to flooding. The ordinance includes methods and provisions for restricting or prohibiting uses that are dangerous due to flooding. Does that mean putting a moratorium on building in certain neighborhoods or buying up homes like the city of San Diego has openly discussed? The recommended changes feel like extortion by FEMA. It feels like they offered a little help to the flood survivors in exchange for new regulations so they never have to pay out again. And why did you guys not discuss these changes in August 2021 when FEMA first requested them? The sentence says the Department of Public Works has engaged extensively with stakeholders and partners, including the Environmental Coalition, labor unions, and SANDAG. No wonder insurance has been going up all over the state. A 43-page errata was added to this item yesterday on the 24th at 11:25 a.m., less than 24 hours before today's meeting. There were 4 different mistakes that were removed, so because of so many last-minute changes, this item should be dumped, especially if staff is confused on the definitions of terms as evidenced on page 29 of the errata. And when are you guys going to do something about the flood of sewage coming from Mexico that's now backing up and hitting Tijuana because they hit the pump station switch back on for...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Of course, on the surface, this may look good, but everything that you guys do is tainted. And it's sad because FEMA is not even helping the people that have lost everything, and now they're going to benefit somehow from this. And, you know, there's lawsuits that are pending and coming forward due to your negligence. The people from the flood are still trying to pick up the pieces if they're ever going to. And that is intentional, because what does that do? It gets people out of certain areas as well, right? Just like fires do and all this stuff. And you won't even, if you want to prevent something like that, you should acknowledge why it happens, because this isn't a once-in-a-100-year flood. Oh, my gosh. It's intentional. And it happened again before in the 80s. And they were cloud seeding, and it flooded San Diego, and a bunch of people died. And now we had the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority cloud seeding before, after, and during the storm. And you guys won't even acknowledge that or try and do something about that because it fits into your climate god so well, right? Then we can say it's climate change, but people are suffering. They've lost everything. And the fact that you are unwilling to acknowledge that that stuff actually happens, you can go see what Sawpod did. Instead, you don't care, and you want to bring something forward like this that isn't going to move the needle forward. It's not going to help people pick up their lives. Maybe if it was one of you who lost everything, you'd be having a different tune. But because it's not, and you sit up there on your dais and you love to spend the people's money and you neglect taking care of things that were supposed to be taken care of that you knew about, and like Justin said, you put that money towards other things that are total bullshit. And people are still suffering. When is that suffering going to end? Because they were even told to leave hotels, and all of a sudden, you know what? They're not eligible for help. Ha, ha, ha. Interesting, right? None of them should have to be wondering how they're going to pick up the pieces.
Thank you. Your time is up. And to note for the record, that speaker was Audra. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. We have a couple members of a couple of members of the board who'd like to speak. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I will go ahead and move staff's recommendation. I think 2 things here. Anything we can do to try to help lower the cost of flood insurance must be actualized because the impacts to our climate will continue, and having a floodplain administrator maintain records is really, really important. I will note that the county and the unincorporated area was impacted much less in January because of the work that the county had been doing, and so I'm supportive of this as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion. Supervisor Desmond, you had a comment.
Yes, I have a question actually for staff, and I know this is a lot of definition changes and things like that, but what I want to make sure is we're not impeding on the being able to develop housing in San Diego, in the unincorporated area. So do these amendments put any more restrictions on housing developments in the unincorporated area? So can somebody answer that down?
Supervisor Desmond, through the chair, these changes will not put additional restrictions on housing in the unincorporated area. In fact, there are a number of changes that will streamline and minimize certain requirements that were additive through this process. We've also worked very closely with industry, including the building industry, and have support from a number of professionals in the field for these changes.
Okay, thank you. I'm always looking through the lens of this housing crisis, and we just putting more restrictions is not good. So I'm glad this doesn't do that. Thank you. I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Supervisor Montgomery Steppe and a second by Supervisor Desmond. Let's call the vote.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Lawson, remember that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the business before the board today. We will now resume with non-agenda public comment. Ryan, can you please call the remainder of the non-agenda public speakers?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We do have 13 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. All of those are coming via phone. So for those that have requested to speak by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you, and we'll go ahead and give you a moment to do so. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, in accordance with the board, when it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers again, they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and hear from our first caller.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Megan Stewart, and as a health advocate, I'm here to address the significant public health risks associated with the commercialization of marijuana in our county. Recent research involving over 1,300 intensive care patients shows that marijuana use nearly doubles the risk of heart attacks and strokes. This is a reminder that despite false claims of marijuana being natural and safe, it is far from harmless. Scientists have found that THC triggers the body's flight or fight response, raising heart rates and blood pressure, which over time damages the heart. Alarmingly, those who use marijuana face up to 3 times the risk of serious cardiovascular events, according to this study. Seniors in particular are even more vulnerable to these cardiovascular risks. As older adults already face increased susceptibility to heart disease and stroke, marijuana use can compound these issues, leading to life-threatening complications. In addition to these physical risks, studies have shown a 5-fold increase in the likelihood of psychosis with regular use of high-potency marijuana. The reality is that the commercialization of marijuana is not without consequence. Heart attacks, strokes, and even deaths have been linked to its use. San Diego should not gamble with the health of its residents by encouraging the expansion of marijuana facilities, which will only increase the perceived safety of its use. We must consider the long-term public health impacts and make decisions that safeguard the well-being of all San Diego citizens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, board. My name is Kathleen Lippitt. I'd like to share some information from the Department of Cannabis Control, the DCC that speaks to the concerns of parents and community members. A recent, although not the first, report on testing facilities tasked with assuring cannabis products were free of exogenous contaminants like banned pesticides, molds, toxins, heavy metals, etc., were failing to meet their permit requirements intentionally or unintentionally. DCC's recent but belated oversight of the facilities found that the former deputy director of laboratory services had turned whistleblower after her repeated warnings to DCC officials and law enforcement regarding Category 1 pesticides found in products being sold to consumers were ignored. Instead, she was fired. Unethical testing behavior has been found to be a problem across the country, particularly in states where regulators aren't verifying results through a reference lab. Quality testing labs that refuse to inflate THC potency to please their clients or take a lax approach toward pesticides or molds went out of business. due to the DCC's failure to close unethical labs that created unfair competition. The Medical and Adult Use Cannabis and Regulation Safety Act prohibited cannabis advertising, marketing, products, packaging, labeling attractive to children. These prohibitions have been flagrantly ignored, as were the testing facilities' quality control. A final comment. It's disheartening and unprecedented to see this board increasingly see the need to restrict and threaten those with dissenting opinions, even for going slightly off topic. Restoring civility to these meetings will begin with your leadership at the top, treating all with.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. Now that school is back in session, I appreciate that we can do these meetings by Zoom, and I can call in from the workroom here at my school and share with you some good news and a thought. You may know that on Monday, Governor Newsom did sign AB 3216, the Phone-Free School Act, which would require every school district, charter school, and county office of education to develop a policy regarding limiting the use of smartphones as appropriate for their particular school district. Parents welcome this information. The concluding comment on the press release mentions also about the governor's investment in the California Master Plan for Kids' Mental Health. And it goes on to mention these mental health facts that we talked about yesterday as well, that about 2/3 of our young people are not receiving the mental health treatment they need. And it's because it isn't available, not because we're not referring it. And so we all appreciate more effort in that behalf. And it's something we know well here in San Diego County. The suicide rates among our young people has increased, some say up to 25% over the last couple of years. What occurs to me as we seek solutions is that we do need to recognize the role that drug use plays in mental health crisis, and that we are careful about the messages that we send, that we don't normalize drug use choices as a way to solve problems. And I would respectfully suggest that marijuana storefronts normalize drug use as clearly as billboards on our freeways do. And this is not a solution to our mental health crisis for our young people, and works against what we all want.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Yay, how you guys doing? Hey, Jim, I noticed that you all of a sudden care about home builders. I do recall there was a thing about fire insurance, and you wanted to make sure that you told all the corporations that it does not apply to you, it only applies to the homeowner. This was said at a Board of Supervisors meeting. So I'm glad you're finally changing your point of view regarding that, where you're not just benefiting the corporations, and now you are trying to do something for the normal people. That's one good thing. Here's another thing. Did you know that Congress is worried about a bunch of politicians, possibly getting killed if we run into a civil war? Did you know that? It just recently happened. You should really look into it. They're really concerned that because of you guys fucking things up so bad, that you're going to piss off the people when the election happens, and we're going to go into total chaos. This is something that was written in my restraining order, too, that I was afraid of civil war if you don't fix the election. So basically, you guys know the problem. You guys are running straight into it. You guys want it to happen, and you're doing nothing to stop it from happening. Flat out. So when it does happen, I hope you guys go to jail. I hope nothing else happens to you, but I really, really hope you guys go to jail for screwing over the entire state. That was Michael Vu, by the way. Michael Vu, 1875 Assembly Bill, that he went ahead and pushed to get vote by mail across the thing. And granted, that was probably why you have him in charge of only vote by mail, a position that was only created because we fired the old registrar because it was so friggin' terrible, supposedly. So you needed to put someone interim. That was Michael Haas. Now Michael Vu has that job.
Thank you. Your time is up. And again, to note for the record, that caller was Justin Castro. We'll go to our next speaker.
It's true. For the record, I did sign up to speak on closed session yesterday, so I was deprived of my right to address that item. And thanks to her for properly addressing for the funeral death of civic engagement that happened yesterday via your 1-minute censorship. Today's the Gitmo Look. Question that UT endorses Tara ad on the Coast News website. Was that paid for with the $400,000 the Democratic Party just gave your campaign? Now getting some more network abused horse and dog info. So far, I've read that from January 28th to July 3rd, County Animal Services has wasted tax dollars on at least 27 different visits to the network's property, not including for the daily dog patrols. Here's more public records lowlights. Quote, January 28th, neighbor says dog looks emaciated. Concerns breeding may be going on. February 19th at Celio, Irish setter dog running up street. I could read on the collar, Deborah Barkley and Rusty. 1 impound. Neighbor stated there has already been a lawsuit. She's in contact with HOA. One of the female dogs looks like it's nursing. Neighbor says owner is rarely home. Dogs have no petting or care. I called Deborah Barkley, unable to leave a message as mailbox full. Texted Barkley. February 15th, 7735 Camino de Arriba. Public nuisance pending once Barkley picks up bin from shelter. May 24th and July 11th, Animal Control Officer D. Edinger emailed a copy of public nuisance to Deborah's attorney, Gregory Kohler. June 15th, 7612 Artesian. 1 golden retriever jumped the fence and attacked neighbors. July 11th, I hiked past 7612 Artesian. I heard horses and puppies in the barn. Animals in barn not visible from Trailer Road. Multiple texts from Berkeley stated, I am not allowing you on the property without a warrant, end quote. Dogs look malnourished and are attacking people, but everything's sustainable except for that warrant, Jim. I demand a new policy that ensures an independent veterinarian is the only source of info that the county relies on. Davia is not a horse or dog expert either. Get that warrant and bring many deputies because these people are nuts. And define good condition. If not, shut up lying. And Tara, why are you always sick? It's very disgusting. Maybe it's the toxic environment you create.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Wonder how much money you guys get paid to help facilitate the invasion that's going on in our county and nation, because you don't seem to care about, the children that have gone missing, the unaccompanied minor migrant children that came across the border. Terry, you looked at me like I was crazy yesterday when I was talking about that, but it's like you have children. So it's very weird when people don't care about that and wouldn't want to do anything to stop it, yet you want to facilitate more and more and more people coming across the border, all while children are working in labor camps, becoming sex slaves, having their organs harvested. But hey, that's all right, right? As long as it's not your kid. But it just makes you wonder, how much money goes into your pockets from all of this if you're not willing to face the facts of what's actually happening and do something to protect the children. But why would you want to do that, right? Because you probably wish they were aborted, right, before. And so it doesn't really matter, right? When will it matter? When will the children matter enough that you'll want to actually take a stand against this and not let places like Southwest Key and Lemon Grove and El Cajon go ahead and, traffic these children in and out, sexually abuse the children? It's cool, though, right? I mean, who really cares? Nobody. None of you do. All you care about is getting more money to have more of it happen. So God forbid something like that happens to someone or your own children, because you're going to reap what you're sowing by doing that and by allowing it and by not even doing a damn thing to stop it or even acknowledge it. Our own government is doing this. We're paying them to.
Thank you. Your time is up. And to note for the record, that caller was Audra. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that